हेलो एवरीवन, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। आज हम करेंगे यूनिट 9 एडमंड स्पेंसर। ठीक है, तो एक्चुअली क्यों मैं ये रीड कर रही हूँ ना, पूरे चैप्टर्स मैं इसलिए रीड कर रही हूँ ताकि बुक में है क्या। कई बार कुछ लोग ना पूरा चैप्टर नहीं पढ़ते, उनको बहुत लेंथी लगता है। तो ये मैं रीड कर रही हूँ, आप सुनेंगे, एक बार सुनेंगे, दो बार सुनेंगे, तीन बार सुनेंगे, तो आपको सुनने के बाद पता चलेगा कि इसमें है क्या। कई बार इतनी अच्छी अच्छी डिटेल्स बीच में होती हैं ना कि हम इतने अच्छे पॉइंट्स होते हैं, कई बार इतने इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स होते हैं वो हम स्किप कर जाते हैं। तो लेट अस स्टार्ट नाउ। This unit will briefly discuss the significance of biographies and biographical material in understanding and analyzing literature. The unit will then cover the life of Edmund Spenser to the extent it is known. It will examine some of the literary, political, and personal factors that inflected his writings, specifically the nature of patronage poetry and the ways in which it influenced his work. It will then look at some personal dimensions of his life as they bear on his work, as for instance his courtship and marriage to Elizabeth Boyle, or the impact of the conflicts between his religious training and his readings in प्लेटोनिक फिलोसफी। एक्चुअली ना, जब भी हम किसी के बनाए हुए नोट्स पढ़ते हैं ना, कोई भी, मैंने बहुत वीडियोस ऐसे सुने कि जिसमें काफ़ी कुछ बता रखा है, कितने कितने पॉइंट्स दे रखे हैं एडमंड स्पेंसर के बारे में। लेकिन जब तक आप खुद अपने से रीड नहीं करते हो ना पूरा का पूरा चैप्टर, जब तक आपको चीज़ें अच्छे से क्लियर नहीं होती हैं ना, तब तक आप कितने भी किसी के बनाए हुए नोट्स पढ़ लो, आपको चीज़ें क्लियर नहीं होंगी। तो इसलिए जो हमारी जो इस सिलेबस में दे रखा है, जितनी बुक में डिटेल्स दे रखी हैं ना, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है पढ़ना। कितने भी हम पॉइंट्स बना के, अभी तो हम लोग पॉइंट्स चलो हमने कहीं से देख लिए, नोट्स देख लिए, उसके बाद उनको रट्टा मार लिया, ठीक है, उनको आप मगअप करके आप लिख लोगे, आपको मार्क्स भी अच्छे मिल जाएंगे। लेकिन जब ये एक वो होता है ना, कनेक्टिविटी होती है कि जैसे चौसर के बाद आपने स्पेंसर पढ़ा, आपको वैसे पता नहीं चलेगा। अब जब तक उसको डिटेल में नहीं पढ़ोगे ना, जब तक अपने से पूरा नहीं पढ़ोगे ना, तब तक आपको कुछ समझ में नहीं आएगा, आप चीज़ें भूलते जाओगे। हालांकि जब हम पूरा लेसन पढ़ते हैं ना, तो एक कनेक्टिविटी सी रहती है, हाँ उसके बाद ऐसा हुआ, उसके बाद मुझे तो खुद सेटिस्फेक्शन नहीं मिलता जब तक मैं पूरा का पूरा लेसन ना पढ़ लूँ। ओके, नाउ सम थियोरेटिकल रिमार्क्स पढ़ेंगे हम इसमें। बिफोर गोइंग इनटू द लाइफ ऑफ स्पेंसर, इट मे बी वर्थ our while to dwell briefly on why we should undertake a study of the poet's life. At a certain level, the need to do so may seem self-evident. After all, what could be more intimate to a writer's work than the life of the writer itself? However, it is necessary to examine whether things are indeed so simple, and for this, we shall briefly outline some of the theoretical issues involved in this question. The form of criticism known as biographical criticism is venerable and much practiced one, dating back at least to Samuel Johnson's Lives of the Poets. It gained in popularity and esteem through the 19th century and remained considerably influential till the early part of the 20th century, when it was challenged first by the school of new criticism and later by structuralist and post-structuralist critics. The basic premise of all biographical criticism is that the events and experiences of an author's life have a bearing on his or her literary work, and that therefore a study of the author's life can prove the basis of a useful explanatory or interpretative commentary on the work. Usually, this extended to maintaining that author's intended meanings was the final horizon of meaning, that the text could yield nothing outside this could be a valid interpretation. The new critics and the structuralists and post-structuralist critics, however, challenged this premise. For the new critic, like the American critic I.A. Richard, the fundamental object of criticism was the text, and nothing outside it, including the author, could be of relevance to it. For structuralists like the French critic Ronald Barthes, the life of any author was considered as much a construct as the text, a construct that, in making itself sensible, followed conventions and patterns of meaning making that belong to the larger field of literary enterprise. Hence, the relevance or otherwise of his or her life or intended meanings to the text could not be a matter of certainty, and certainly could not conclude the debates on the meaning of any literary text. Now, post structuralist writers like the influential French philosophers Jacques Derrida and Michel Foucault furthered the debate. Derrida suggested that the meanings of texts contain within them the logic of their own disintegration, because text can be made meaningful only through the consistent suppression of alternate possible meanings in them. The relevance of the life or intent of the writer to the text was, therefore, only one among myriad possible meanings, and could not be the single conclusive way of interpreting the text. Foucault's contribution to the author debate was to propose that the idea of the author was itself part of a field of authoritarian and disciplinary discourses across a text, aimed at controlling the production of meaning in it. To all these thinkers and critics, clearly there was no evident association between the author and the text. The latter was to be treated as disengaged from its producer, whose role in its meaning subsequent to its production would be the same and have the same validity as that of any other reader. A useful comprehensive introduction to many of these issues may be found in Terry Eagleton's literary theory. Now, given such strong theoretical rejections of author-centered critical practice, the utility of studying the author's life may well be questioned. However, it must be noted that the knowledge of the author's life need not serve only as a means to read and interpret the text. Literary biographies serve us more usefully in other ways. Firstly, even as a textual construct itself, a literary biography can offer us valuable insights, not so much into individual text by that particular individual as into his or her age. It can provide us with the means for understanding the circumstances within which the writer wrote, the pressures and difficulties he or she faced, the literacy levels and reading habits of his or her age, the kind of issues that occupied his or her society, the kinds of issues that he or she chose to engage with. In short, the available literary, political, social, economic, and cultural influences on him or her. In other words, it is part of the process of locating a writer's work in its context. Secondly, to the extent that any literary text must, in the first instance, be authored and usually form part of a corpus of work that a writer produces, its links and relations with the rest of the over can throw over means composer, yeah, author, can throw light on the work itself formally and substantially, and can usually be traced only through an examination of the author's literary life. And finally, even if the meaning intended by the author need not serve as a master meaning to the literary text, and even if such intended meanings are rarely easily evident. It is arguably necessary to uncover and engage with them in the first instance before deciding on whether or not they are relevant to the text. With these observations in mind, it is now possible to turn to an examination of Spenser's life as it relates to his work. Thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel. Next video में हम करेंगे स्पेंसर की लाइफ.